The patch was still on my wrist when I reached the processing line. I had not thought to take it off. You don't, when it's been there since your third year of field work. The Theron issued diagnostic strip, ivory-colored about the size of my thumbnail, adhered to the inside of my left wrist just below the pulse point. Standard transit gear for anyone working biological survey in Theron-controlled corridors. It read your neural signature continuously and broadcast a low-frequency compliance code that told gate scanners you were a registered traveler with a functioning, measurable mind. The Theron built it. It was their system. The number it read for me, that day and every day for 11 years, was 94.3 on the complexity index, solidly mid-range for a human researcher, unremarkable to anyone who understood the scale. The shuttle accident had happened 3 weeks prior. Not catastrophic, we had all walked away, more or less, but the manifest data hadn't. The cargo logs, the passenger manifests, the bioregistration files that the annex gate systems at Kalath Station pulled to cross-reference arrivals, all of it had been compressed into a single damaged packet during the emergency relay and transmitted to the station's intake database in whatever order the dying relay had managed. When I stepped up to Gate 7 and the scanner read my patch, what it found in the database waiting for that wrist was not my passenger file. What it found was a fauna registry entry, Class C, non-sentient, filed by the agricultural survey team who had been on the same shuttle transporting 6 breeding pairs of Pelworth ground cattle back to the Kalath research pens. I did not know any of this yet. I was tired, my boots were still stiff from the decontamination rinse, and I was thinking about coffee. The transit officer's name was something I couldn't pronounce then, and cannot now, 4 syllables that started in the back of the throat and ended at the teeth. His species, the Theron, ran Kalath Station and half a dozen transit hubs in that corridor, and their bureaucratic architecture was the oldest of its kind still operating in that region. They had been classifying things, sorting, filing, registering, taxonomizing, for longer than my civilization had been making marks on clay. Their legal personhood framework had exactly 2 categories: sentient registered travelers who went through the left gate, and non-sentient registered cargo, which went through the right. The system had worked for 900 years without revision. He scanned my patch, I watched his terminal watched itself. The complexity index reading came up, 94.3, valid, undeniable. The kind of neural signature that in 900 years of Theron transit processing had never once come off anything that wasn't a thinking creature capable of filing a legal grievance. The body type registration came up, Class C non-sentient fauna, registered to the agricultural survey team aboard shuttle KV-4, Livestock manifest reference 7 Tallow 19. His terminal did what terminals do when they encounter contradictory inputs from sources they have been told to trust equally. It cycled, clear, DENIAD, clear, DENIAD. The little amber light above the gate stayed amber, which meant neither open nor shut, which was apparently a state the gate mechanism had not been asked to maintain before, because it began making a sound like a very small animal caught in a drawer. I shifted my pack on my shoulder and waited. He called a supervisor. I did not know the word for supervisor in Theron, but I recognized the body language, the sideways lean, the directed gaze, the careful pointing at the terminal screen with one of his secondary limbs. His supervisor looked at the screen. His supervisor called someone I assumed was a records clerk. The records clerk looked at the screen, looked at my wrist, looked at the screen again, and then looked at me for a long moment in a way that I found professionally interesting given that he was, according to his own system, looking at livestock. I said in the trade language we shared that the patch was mine, that I had worn it for 11 years, that the reading it was giving them was accurate and had always been accurate and would continue to be accurate regardless of what their agricultural manifest said about the body the patch was currently attached to. I said I was a xenobiologist registered with the 7th Survey Compact, that I had a secondary copy of my credentials on a data chip in my left breast pocket, and that I had been awake for 19 hours and would very much like to proceed. The records clerk said that the problem was that my body was registered as Class C non-sentient fauna in their database, and that he could not process a Class C non-sentient fauna through the sentient traveler's gate regardless of what the neural patch said. I said that the neural patch was their system, built by their engineers, calibrated to their standards, and that if their system said 94.3 on the complexity index, their system was saying I was sentient. I said the database error was not a fact about me. It was a fact about their database. He said that the database was the legal record. I said that the patch was the empirical record. He said those were not the same thing. I said I was aware of that. I said that was precisely the problem, and I was curious which one he intended to override, because one of them was going to have to give. He went to get legal counsel. I sat down on a bench near the gate, because there was a bench and I was tired. The amber light above Gate 7 continued doing what it was doing. A Theron family group going through Gate 6 glanced over at me and then quickly away, in the manner of people who have identified a bureaucratic situation and want no part of it. I took out my water flask and drank from it. A Class C non-sentient ground cattle, I reflected, would not have done that, but I did not say so because I was trying not to be difficult. Legal counsel was a younger Theron, very carefully dressed, who arrived 40 minutes later with a data slate and the expression of someone who had studied transit law for 8 years and had not encountered this in any of it. She read the terminal. She read my wrist. She read the terminal again. She asked me, in excellent trade language, whether I was willing to attest under formal record that the neural signature on the patch was genuinely my own and not the result of external signal manipulation. I said I was. She made a note. She asked whether I had documentation of prior transit through Theron-controlled corridors under my own name and passenger classification. I said I had 11 years of it, and she could pull any of it from the Compact's relay archives. She made another note. Then she was quiet for a while, reading something on her slate. And I watched the light above Gate 7 continue, its amber contemplation of a problem it had not been designed to have. What she said next, I will remember for the rest of my life, not because it was cruel or kind, but because it was the most purely administrative sentence I have ever heard spoken aloud. She said, the database record cannot be altered at the gate level, and the neural patch output cannot be disregarded under transit law, and therefore the only available instrument that will accept both inputs simultaneously is a Livestock manifest with a rider addendum, and would I consent to being processed under those terms? I said, what does the rider addendum say? She said, cargo is self-ambulatory and has lodged a formal objection to its own classification. I thought about that for a moment. I said yes. It took another 20 minutes to print the form. The form was long. It had at the top in Theron script the word that I had since learned meant something close to property. Below that were boxes for species, weight, destination, and dietary requirements. Below that was the rider addendum, handwritten in legal trade language by the counsel herself, which read, Neural Complexity Index 94.3 per Transit Authority Diagnostic Instrument. Cargo disputes non-sentient classification under Article 7 of the Compact Mutual Recognition Treaty. Transit Authority position is pending formal review. She stamped it, the gate officer stamped it, the records clerk stamped it. The gate on the right, the fauna gate, the cargo gate, the gate with the ceiling panel painted in Theron script with the word for property, clicked open. I walked through it. My boots were still stiff. I was still tired. The patch on my wrist read 94.3, the same number it had always read, the same number it would read tomorrow, the same number that was apparently on this day the most inconvenient fact in the Theron Transit Authority's 900-year history. The formal review concluded 14 months later. They amended the transit law. The amendment is 11 pages long. I have a copy. The Livestock Manifest is framed on my office wall next to my survey credentials. Visitors ask about it. I tell them it is the most accurate document I have ever been issued. It has my neural signature on it, right there in the writer note, 94.3, which is more than most paperwork bothers to include. The dietary requirements box, for what it is worth, I left blank.